Hello, and welcome to another live episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Kody Kinzie. I am a security researcher at Varonis, and I am not back from the RSAC conference. I am instead staying in San Francisco for a couple extra days to check out a couple of great hacker spaces and otherwise explore the city. I am in a little tiny hotel, and the internet is quite slow. So if I end up dropping out, well, I did my best. But anyway, I wanted to give an update from after the conference. It was a lot of fun, and I kind of didn't realize how much stuff I hadn't been to. I had been to the RSA sandbox maybe a couple years ago, and I didn't really know anyone there. But now that I've been to DEF CON a number of times, there were a lot of people that I knew there, like really cool hackers who were doing things in the village, in the sandbox, and I just didn't know. So I had the pleasure of hanging out with the people at IoT Village. I also got to see the really cool unauthorized entry shirts for some of the other villages there that I do. And I just have to say, it was really, really great to see everybody from some of the more hackery conferences at RSAC this year. So I also got to hang out at the booth. I got to meet some of you. So some people came by who said that they watched the stream. We also did our 2 truths and an AI. And I, the entire time, was offering people these thinking that they were M&Ms. So it says DSPMs, and then there's that kind of like, this looks like the M&M logo to me, but nobody told me that these are actually freeze-dried Skittles. So if you've never had them before, they are actually amazing. And I only got away with 1 bag of them. So anyway, if you end up seeing the social media from that conference, hopefully they cut out the part that says M&Ms, because I just kept saying it over and over because it made sense. And I was like, these feel really light for M&Ms though, you know? They're basically just like, I don't know how to describe them. They're just like crunchy cotton candy almost. But either way, they're delicious. And you'll see me giving them out to people who were doing our 2 truths and an AI game. Hello, everybody in the chat as well. I am, in fact, live and watching. Oh, and there's a lot of you already. Well, hello. Good to see you, James. And yes, I know I'm running late today, but I was up until 2 a.m. last night, at least, over at a hackerspace in San Francisco. So there's a lot of hackerspaces here, and I was looking around when I first landed. And of course, like, a lot of people have told me to check out Noise Bridge. I know you guys, I'm gonna do it. But I wanted to know, is there anything else cool? So why was I late today? Well, for one, I was sleepy from the conference and from being up very late, but mostly just the internet and this very old laptop, which is trying its best to support us all today. But I wanted to give a shout out to the hackerspace I went to, and let me see if I can pull up a video really quick. I did a little fast tour. Here we go. And let me play through it. So, okay, first, this big diamond in the window is so cool. It's all mirrored, so it kind of like bounces, like all the motion like kind of bounces around the inside, and it looks very cool. And then this is called Querious Labs. So if you're, curious, then I guess this is the place to go. But I have to say, they have a lot of stuff packed into a space with a lot of like vertical room, which they're still currently trying to figure out how to use. Not everybody is tall, so all the things that I can reach, perhaps not everybody else can reach. But I really like this space. It was great. When I came in, everybody was watching Star Trek on this big screen. And I found it to be one of the more pleasant hacker spaces that I've been to lately. So if you're ever in San Francisco and you want to see a cool, friendly hacker space that I enjoyed my night in, then Querious Labs would be my recommendation. Okay, so we also have a lot of news that broke, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about the conference, some fun that I had. So one thing that I mentioned was that I was intending to do a Meshtastic node. So I have a couple. I have like 5 Meshtastic nodes. So if you were at the conference and you had Meshtastic, you probably ran into one of my nodes at some point. And this is a little HealthTech LoRa node that allows me to flash Meshtastic, and then I can see messages both appear here on the screen, and also there's a kind of cool web client. So when I connect to the web client, I can send and receive messages, and there's a general channel. And the way that Meshtastic works is basically like the chats that you can join have an encryption key, kind of like Signal. and you can use the default encryption key that comes with it. That's basically just mostly like zeros or whatever. If you don't want privacy and instead you want to chat just to the general area. So that public encryption key means that you can do a local area chat with this, or you can use that local area chat to communicate people over to other communication platforms. So I found a Bay Area Meshtastic Discord community via that method. Some people's like names on Meshtastic, their node names actually refer you to like a website that like takes you to their Discord server. So I found that Meshtastic is a pretty active community. So then I was like, all right, I'm going to take this a step further. So I took one of my little e-paper modules, which has it's another health tech like LoRa module that has a really good antenna, and I put it inside the Varonis booth, and I changed it to VaronisNet. And a bunch of people came over and they're like, which one of you is running the Meshtastic node? So for getting people to come have a conversation about cool technology, to just kind of attract some people over. And also we were so close to having a meetup, but I was just too busy to really organize it this time. So if you've been looking at ways of communicating with other hackers at conferences, then this is probably my favorite. You can give someone your Meshtastic information or like add them to a Meshtastic group of your friends. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. So just at RSAC, which admittedly has like tens of thousands of people, so this is a very big conference. Just at RSAC, there was at least 7 or 8 other nodes in my area that were pinging messages around. And on the floor of RSAC, there were actually a good amount more. So I don't know. I really see this popping up more in the future and being a part of other hacker conferences. So to everybody who came by the Varonis booth and asked who was the commander of VaronisNet, that was me. I created VaronisNet. So anyway, very cool. And I enjoyed meeting everybody who came and talked to me at the booth very much. Let's see. All right, so I'll take a quick question and then we're going to go on the news. When am I going to show how to hack WPA3s in microcontrollers or other stuff? So there are some new microcontrollers coming out. Well, they've already been out, but they're about to come into more full production that allow for hacking on 5 gigahertz network. And for me, like all the techniques that currently work against 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi also work against 5G. And I've really been waiting for the ability to do some more Wi-Fi hacking stuff, but not necessarily WPA3, more against like 5 gigahertz network with microcontrollers. So that's probably going to be what I cover next. But after that, there are some legitimate attacks against WPA3. The problem is I haven't focused on it because not a lot of people use WPA3. And if they do, their devices are dual purpose. Like they will still happily accept WPA2 as well, and they can be attacked that way. So I don't really have to attack WPA3 very much in my like Wi-Fi hacking research because most people have a router that supports both. So if I don't want to go up against WPA3, I can just attack WPA2 instead. So all right. So anyway, I will go more over the Meshtastic stuff. I've been talking about LoRa for a while, and now I've elevated. We were talking about just the basic technology, and now talking about applications running on top of it and how cool they can be is kind of going to be the next turn of that. So we'll go into the news for now, but next week expect a little bit more of a deep dive on all the stuff you could do. Oh, are you more curious about this interesting technology I mentioned? Well, guess what? I also recently released a new video. So let me pull this up. Here it is. Okay, check it out. So I made this video. Actually, that's the wrong one. Sorry. I mean, it's the right video. It's just the wrong screen. Okay, I think this is it. I hope this is it. All right, so I made this video because I wanted to make a prototype that was able, and I'm just going to speed this up real fast. I wanted to make a prototype that was able to send a Rickroll for at least a mile. Yeah, 4 miles. So I did everything I could to whip up a fast prototype to get this working. And I was able to go to Spokane, Washington with our friends, set them up and use this rather fast and dirty technique of slapping a LoRa module onto the back of an existing nugget. And I use CircuitPython to write a very, very simple prototype that just listens for a certain message over LoRa and executes whatever ducky script I have stored on the device when it hears it. And we did it. I actually had a problem where I wasn't able to fly the drone as far as I could get the attack signal to go. So for the next version of this video, I'm going to try to see if we can document how far it really is to, that we're able to get the signal to go, because it really is quite impressive. And I got about little over 4 miles now of range in our tests. So if you haven't checked this video out, I just released it yesterday. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to talking more about how all the bad things you can do from a distance. Okay, let's go over to my, let's go over to my least favorite story. And that is gonna be the privacy nightmare that is owning a car nowadays. So I don't have a very new car, and I'm kind of fine with that now. Mostly because I read through this article on like what new car companies like have enabled by default, and it sounds like it is extremely difficult to get out of some of this privacy sharing. Sorry, my computer is absolutely freaking out. Let's see. All right. Sounds like it's trying to take off the desk, but I think we're okay for now. So let's talk about what types of information the car collects by default and why that matters. So first off, a car will collect information about your like activities, where you're going, your GPS coordinates, and then also your driving habits. So let's say you're driving really fast and braking really hard. Maybe that information gets stored, and then maybe the car company has a financial incentive to sell that information to a third party who can use it for something profitable, like your insurance company. So there have been cases where people have found that their data being bought from their car has been used to raise their insurance premiums because of their driving. And that's the kind of thing that most people really don't want out there. There's also the potential for abuse. Let's say that if somebody wanted to stalk you, having the ability to access your information through some sort of data portal would be really creepy and something that most people wouldn't want. You know, your car goes with you a lot. So having that information exposed online potentially, seems like a bad idea. So how do you opt out of having this data collected if you do get a new car? Okay, it's super hard, as it says. And the kind of consensus here is, unless you live in 5 states, in the United States anyway, you are never going to find out what data your car collected on you after you switch this off. So if you have a new car, like a new Honda, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I want to turn this off and I want to know what happened. If you're in the state of California and a handful of other states, then you are in luck. You might actually be able to figure out what was collected, but everybody else is going to have a difficult time. And if you try to turn this off at the dealership, it tells you that it is unable to change the setting while the network is invalid, which is confusing. So it took a while to find out exactly how to do this, according to the reporter. And in the end, they had to download this app, which allowed them to connect to the car. And then after connecting to the car, they were able to disable the option. So at that point, they'd already been driving around for a while and had some data collected. And they reached out to Honda and they're like, hey, can you tell us like what the car collected? And they're like, nobody has asked us for this. We don't know how to do it. We don't know. And then a while later, they finally reached back out and they're like, okay, we do know, and you can't have it because you don't live in one of these states. So as soon as you turn off the data collection via the app, by the way, there's this permanent notification on your dashboard that makes it look like there's always something wrong. And it will always and forever be on as long as data sharing is off. So unless you enable data sharing, it looks like there's like a notification that something's wrong on your dashboard all the time. So obviously that's not super helpful, but if you do live in California, Colorado, Connecticut, Utah, or Virginia, then apparently those are the states that will actually allow you to learn what kind of information your car has been collecting on you and request that it be deleted. So I kind of forgot that pretty much all vehicles that are sold nowadays, especially from dealerships, have this turned on by default. it is a profitable thing to collect information on these cars. And often the terms of service allow them to sell it or use it for personalization or other things that you might not intend. So if you've got a new vehicle, it's probably worth it, I would say, to go through this process, but just be prepared to have like a warning light on your dashboard potentially for the rest of your vehicle's life, trying to get you to attempt to re-enable data connection. Oh, the other thing that was also noted is there's no distinction between like having an ambulance come after a crash and just like logging your every move and selling it to your insurance company. It's either you give them everything or you give them nothing. So because there's no level of granularity here, it's kind of like, yeah, I would love an ambulance to come automatically if I get into an accident, but like what if my insurance goes up so high that I can't afford to drive? It's like kind of a crazy choice that people have to make when enabling or disabling this sort of data connection. All right, so let's go through to the news. As long as my computer continues to abide, it really is struggling today. All right, so this is a really interesting case, and I want to talk about what happened. And there's a lot of allegations going around. So a threat actor, we're not calling them a security researcher because they have this avatar and also because Bleeping Computer says so. I think that's a fair assessment. This person figured out that they could basically get de facto access into Dell's partner program by just submitting an application. Once they did that, then if they were auto approved, which seemed to be the case, they would be able to scrape customer information by submitting service tokens, which relate back to customers. And every time they did that, they basically created a program that would generate a service token, a 7-digit service token, submit it, and then log the response. Doing so, they were able to create multiple fake businesses and do 5,000 requests per second or minute. I'll have to double check, but a lot of requests. And Dell did not rate limit them or impede them in any way until they had gone ahead and scraped 49 million customer records. So seems like Dell is saying that they were aware of the incident before receiving the email, an email from the threat actor. But this person actually reached out to Dell, and well, let me just show the email. So it just goes, hello, so-and-so page on the Dell partner portal has a potential security vulnerability. It is possible to get the install at address, order number, serial information of any service tag. So, all this person needed to do to exploit that was just create a program that generates service tags and then just scrape the information. But yeah, Dell apparently did not reply. And about, I think 2 weeks later, it said the threat actor then proceeded to just drop the information on breach forums. The moderators took it down, but currently they are the only person who seems to have the information. So yeah, lot of stuff going on. So again, Dell has actually responded, and they said they were already aware of the incident before the threat actor emailed them, and they were a little defensive. They said they are not disclosing any information that could compromise the integrity of our ongoing investigation. And then also, let's keep in mind, this threat actor is a criminal and we have notified law enforcement. Fair, yes. Yes, that is a fair response. So prior to receiving the threat actor's email, Dell was already aware of and investigating the incident, implementing our response procedures and taking containment steps. We also engaged a third-party forensics firm to investigate. Yeah, APIs have been in a lot of these sorts of breaches, and Bleeping Computer goes on to mention that like a lot of different companies have either not enough protection on these endpoints or don't have any sort of rate limiting because they're used by customers or they might be used in automated systems. This seems like one of those examples of a company that had an API that was sensitive or connected to sensitive information, where that information was being rapidly accessed in a way that was highly unusual. And the threat actor was able to get away with millions of customer records just by going through this relatively simplistic process. So no rocket science here, just a partner program that didn't seem to have any sort of real scrutiny, and then an API that partner program was the only real protection for. All right, so this is a big one. Ascension, it's a apparently I had not heard of it, but it is a major U.S. healthcare network. Is in kind of full crisis mode when they were attacked by what seems like ransomware, and the damage is to the point that it's affecting the electronic charts. Which, if you've seen some of the hospitals we've covered before, once the electronic charts are down, it's really difficult to give anybody anything because you don't know about allergic reactions, past medical histories. It really messes things up very badly. Badly enough, apparently, that they were also diverting ambulances from several hospitals because the information wasn't available to healthcare providers. So these sorts of attacks are really risky for the groups that execute them, because when people die or you target healthcare or critical infrastructure, that's when you get major international task force whose only job is to hunt you down. Like, the allegation here is that this looks like the Black Basta ransomware group. However, uh, there have been no confirmed details as to like who is claiming responsibility as of yet. Expect to see this one continue to be in the news as fallout develops here, because if it is indeed a ransomware attack and it is a hospital and it's affecting these or sorry, it's a healthcare network and it's affecting these hospitals' ability to provide services, like, it's going to be a pretty big deal until it's resolved. All right, so the Ohio Lottery is reaching out to people who were affected by a breach of 538,000 individuals' information. This seems to be mostly limited to their social security numbers and their names. Oh, never mind, and other personal identifiers. I thought we got lucky there. So it seems like this was a breach that was claimed by the Dragon Force ransomware, which weirdly also went after those probiotic Yakult drink manufacturers earlier this year. A little bit of a strange, like, all over the place pattern there, but I mean, guess I'm not too surprised with that. So, of course, all of the people that are affected are going to be getting free credit monitoring. However, at a certain point, like, I don't know how useful it is to have this many companies just watching your credit score all the time. So, again, a lot of information, 94 gigabytes of data, and including social security information at least. So AT&T has taken the unusual step of blocking emails from Microsoft 365, and that ironically also affects their own @AT&T email addresses. So if you attempt to send an email address at AT&T, SBC Global, or Bell South, AT&T servers will refuse the connection and not accept the email for delivery, which is affecting a lot of Microsoft 365 customers. And the reason given behind this was that there's apparently a huge amount of spam going out, and making it the only way for them to deal with it is to just refuse connections. Obviously, that's also causing chaos, as a lot of legitimate email is being blocked from these various email addresses. Interesting to see that severe of a reaction to spam. Although there are a couple other stories here about how threat actors are abusing basically poor security in email spoofing to make it look like a victim is talking to like a researcher or like a government official or something like that. So maybe the problem really is that bad. So I saw some rumors on Twitter about Zscaler being breached, but it seems like after a bit of an investigation that there was, and this is from the company, a single isolated test environment that did not contain any customer information. No real word on what was in the environment, but it was exposed to the internet, and it was not apparently connected to any other infrastructure. This is also some drama that I saw on Twitter. Some Stack Overflow users were editing their posts because they don't agree with having it being scraped into an AI. They signed up to help users, not OpenAI, to create a bot. So they feel like they have the right to edit their past posts or delete them in order to, not participate in that process. It turns out that that is going to be a little bit more difficult than they thought. So a lot of people found that they could not delete their previous posts. And the reasons behind this seemed like a little emotional, you know, like you cannot delete this question as others have invested time and effort into answering it. So it's not usually a good look for a company to tell users who have like volunteered to contribute stuff that they no longer own it like blatantly and that it's being sold and they have no choice. But a lot of people received emails who did this anyway, received emails talking about how they had removed or defaced content from their posts. And kind of just asserting the fact that, you know, this is now the content that they are like selling to another company, and the users who wrote it originally no longer have the right to edit it. In the terms and conditions, it does say that that could be a valid position. Like they technically own the content once it's posted to the website. However, in the European Union, the right to be forgotten means that websites have to honor users' requests to remove personal information, which could include posts. There are some opt-outs for that, which make it so that it's a little bit more difficult to do so. So it's not really clear who's going to prevail, but there is definitely some drama going on when it comes to Stack Overflow questions being fed to OpenAI bots. All right, next up, the FBI has been warning about gift card fraud, and it doesn't involve the elderly this time. So rather than trying to trick people with tech support scams, which last week we were talking about how Japanese police have put like tech support payment and like other like common scam gift cards like up among the real gift cards, hoping that people who are the victims of these scams will find them and then bring them to the front counter and be kind of intercepted before they fall for this fraud. No, the hackers here have decided that they are not going to do that sort of thing at all anymore. Instead, they are going to go after the employees that issue the gift cards. So after phishing them and attempting to do some pretty sneaky things to get access to the system, they just issue their own gift cards. And the FBI was noting that this financial crime group has figured out not only how to issue themselves gift cards, but when they get caught, they can sneak back into the systems, find unredeemed gift cards, and then just use the value of those instead. So this is a pretty sophisticated cybercrime group, and the FBI issuing a notice about this and talking about how the game has shifted from getting people to buy gift cards and mail them to you to just attacking the employees that sell the gift cards to begin with. Really, really interesting. I didn't know that that was a new trend to just go straight to the source and try to compromise the actual businesses that are issuing the gift cards in the first place. All right, the city of Wichita has a breach claimed by the ransomware, the Lockbit ransomware gang, and this is taking down a lot of payment systems. So for the golf course, water payments, Wi-Fi at certain locations, certain services at the library, these are all offline. And anybody who wants to do a lot of these official payments now has to use cash or a check. So obviously having businesses pay the city for utilities in cash is not a good idea for most people, I would assume. But the options are a little bit limited here as the ransomware negotiations go on. This is something I just kind of saw in passing, a massive web shop fraud ring, which was basically a fraud tool that people could buy access to that would generate websites that looked legitimate. And then they could basically just host those websites in various places, draw traffic to them, and steal credit cards. Now, the idea is that this was probably something that was hosted in China, or the attack originated from China, both from the color choices here and then also from the fact that there were no victims in China. So the infrastructure as a service model is relatively new, but being able to just pay for a fraud shop and then just reap the profits from it after advertising it kind of seems like an obvious move. So if you see some hot new like drop shipping website, maybe check twice, especially if the prices seem a little too good to be true. Although these ones seem like relatively reasonable, and I guess that's the point. The idea is a lot of these typo squatting or other sorts of attacks might prey on users who are trying to go to a legitimate store and either mimic that store, or they might rely on like SEO traffic or other things to draw users in. But if you see like an advertisement on social media going to like a store that you've never been to before or something like that, just be a little careful, because these sorts of services are definitely easy to deploy now. And pretty much anybody who has the money to spin up a service can now just kick back and wait for the fraud money to come in. All right, so this one's relatively short. DocGo, which is another healthcare service I did not know exists, but it's pretty self-explanatory in the name, is disclosing a cyber attack after hackers have stolen patient health data. So these Form 8K filings from the SEC are honestly great, because every time there's a breach now, you kind of get the scope, the information, and the bare bones of like what's going on with these filings. We saw that with the Dropbox attack, and this healthcare one is kind of like, you know, discovering in the same way is kind of cool. Sorry, I barely remember what information was. Oh, yes. The reason why I barely remember is because all that was said is that a limited number of healthcare records was breached. So this is apparently from the ambulance transportation business, and no other business units were compromised, but that doesn't really tell me a lot. So we're gonna have to stay tuned to this one to see what kind of information was actually breached. All right, so we have a pair of VPN attacks on this episode, and I did just a little bit of research into figuring out exactly how they work. The tunnel vision attack is something that I thought I'd heard about a while ago, and it turns out, yes, there was some research into this several years ago. But the idea here is that you can still create alternative routes for information to pass through that are not properly encrypted, or they're not sent over the VPN tunnel. And some of these options have been around for a good amount of time. One of my least favorite things in networking was learning about how much you could do by setting someone's DNS records, or by using DHCP when someone connects to a router to dictate malicious settings rather than, you know, like helpful ones. And this is one of these settings where if an attacker controls a network, so if you connect to a guest network or something and you're using a VPN, it's possible to force your traffic off of the VPN and allow an attacker to intercept it. That is obviously bad. And this completely inscrutable graph can walk you through all of the details if you're extremely interested. But the idea is that if you connect to an attacker's network, they send you a malicious route, and it's stored, you know, in your phone, then it's possible to start to see their DNS requests and potentially reroute them or do other things that should not be possible on a VPN. Yes, so if they connect to the device, if they connect their device to a network that is either controlled by an attacker or the attacker has a presence, possible scenarios would include public Wi-Fi networks, those in a coffee shop, hotels, or airports. Oh, great. Yeah, but this was a very interesting attack because a lot of people use VPNs and assume that they're infallible. And there's some of these settings that say that it shouldn't be allowed to connect to the internet at all unless it's going through the VPN. And that doesn't actually work all the time, which is kind of upsetting to some people. So if you want to see a proof of concept, after working with CISA and trying to make this as visible as possible, the people who discovered this have released a proof of concept. So if you want to see how this works yourself, then you can see an example that has been released here in an attempt to make it more of a priority for people who are working on VPNs. So we'll see if this leads to an actual increase in VPN security. But for now, if you have been connecting to a potentially attacker secured network, then this could have been compromising your VPN connection. If you want to protect yourself, then one of the recommended things you can do is connect to your own hotspot. There you go. All right, we're almost through it. BetterHelp is agreeing to pay $7.8 million for that pixel tracking thing that we were talking about. So we mentioned that many months ago, we mentioned that BetterHelp was a mental health care service that was actually transmitting sensitive information about their patients who were filling out forms and things online to their advertising partners via these tracking pixels. So because people were having incredibly sensitive medical queries and the other medical information connected to their public advertising accounts, there's all sorts of untold information about your preferences, ailments, or other things that are now being traded and sold by these companies who paid BetterHelp for access to that data. So they got in a lot of trouble for this and now are paying millions of dollars to remediate it. So another kind of lesson in the healthcare space, that if you enable some of these tracking things and they're unintentionally scooping up way more data than you intended, then it's terrible for patient privacy, and it also gets you in a lot of financial trouble. All right, more drama. So Lockbit's website was seized a while ago, and this used to be the website where they did announcements and such. And now the NCA, FBI, and Europol are doing this weird parody site. So let's talk about like what the goal here is. Like they're trying to leak information about basically like cyber criminals who were involved in this group, and use the same tactic that that group was using for their victims. So, Lockbit would be like, oh, I'm going to drop like Dropbox's whole staff email calendar birthday list or whatever. And then they would like have it on a drop, like a countdown, and you would get billed anticipation. So now, like these like federal agencies are like trying to do the same thing. And some of them honestly seem like bangers. Like, who is Lockbit's up? Like, are we going to release an indictment? But there's more. What have we learned? I'm like, okay, well, first of all, like we're not all British here. So what did we learn? What have we learned? But then more LB hackers exposed. Okay, we're back. We're doing more indictments. That's cool. What have we been doing? Sure, you can give me an update. Preventing and protecting. And then there's one on like how I should report cyber attacks. Is like, I'm going to report cyber attacks by calling the police when I am attacked. Like, I don't. Yeah, and then after that, they kind of close it down. So it kind of seems like half goofy government press releases and half potentially releasing indictments about specific people within this group. At least that's what the hype kind of seems to be about. But it is indeed kind of funny that they're doing this on the ransomware group's own infrastructure. Even if the what have we learned ends up not building up to that much real anticipation, it is interesting to see like what exactly is going to be revealed here. So we'll check back and see what exactly is going on with this government PR. I'm not totally sure what the strategy is, but it's still intriguing, interesting seeing former attack infrastructure be turned into like this announcement platform using the same format. Someone had a vision. All right, so another VPN thing. In this case, we're talking about Android, and specifically, we're talking about that when you are switching between networks, then the always on feature can actually leak information. So this isn't quite as bad as the last one where we're full, not that one, as the last one, no, not that one, this one, where we're full on like redirecting traffic off of the VPN and onto a different network. Like that is obviously worse, but this one is still a problem. A Mulvad VPN user was the person that noticed this on Android devices, and apparently this has been going on for a while and also affects everything up to the most current version. So there are some recommendations for potential mitigations. Mulvad said that the first DNS leak scenario where the user switches to another server or changes the DNS server can easily be mitigated by setting a bogus DNS server while the VPN is active. So if you just set a DNS server that doesn't exist, then that should be fine. It says it has yet to fix the VPN tunnel, reconnect DNS query leak, which is valid for all other Android VPN settings, that they're also likely impacted by the issue. Yeah, it should be made clear that these workarounds should not be needed in any VPN app, nor is it wrong for an app to use get address info to resolve domain names. Instead, these solutions should be addressed in the OS in order to protect all Android users regardless of what apps they use. Okay, so basically Mulvad is like, it's not us, it's the operating system. Android needs to be fixed for this. Oh, yeah, and then in October 22, Mulvad had also found that Android users' devices were also leaking DNS queries, IP addresses, DNS lookups, and HTTP traffic every time they connected to a Wi-Fi network because of connectivity checks, which I hate, by the way, which were not going through the VPN, even if the always-on VPN was toggled, which I hate, by the way. I also did see this. So yeah, back when we talked about that, it was kind of shocking to know that you could trigger this activity just by forcing someone to connect to a new Wi-Fi network. So yikes. All right, so I think we got one last one, and this is the NSA is warning of North Korean hackers exploiting weak DMARC email policies. This email thing confused me initially because of the talk about DMARC versus DPRK. I was like, there are too many acronyms here. But let me break it down. So what's happening is this whole spam thing we were seeing with AT&T, like blocking everything. There are a lot of email addresses that do not use this new DMARC standard properly to verify that the email is coming from where it says it's coming from, and also not let spam pass. So it's kind of two-sided. Like the sender needs to make sure this is enabled, and then the receiver needs to make sure that this is enforced. Now, because a lot of senders still aren't enforcing it and a lot of receivers still aren't verifying it, that allows these North Korean hackers to pretend to be journalists, like all government officials, like really anybody that they want to be. And that means that they can send these very convincing phishing emails that fail these new checks. But because so many other people are also failing these new checks, it's making it hard to catch them. So, for example, if I wanted to send an email pretending to be like a journalist and their email server didn't properly enforce this, then I would be able to forge an email address and the receiver would have no way of really being able to tell that the email that I'd sent from this fake, either fake email address or appearing to be from a real one, didn't actually come from it. So it is admittedly kind of a pain to set these up for people who have not done it before, and a lot of people have been lagging on it. But it seems like threat actors are taking advantage of the chaos in this case and making it so that it is even easier for them to send these spam phishing emails. All right, and that is the news for this week. My computer is getting exceptionally hot, but I'm proud to say I think that we successfully made it through the stream. Man, we got up to 125 people on the stream. So if anybody is also in San Francisco and is going to go to the Noisebridge Hackerspace or Querious Labs, then I will probably see you. I'm going to be heading back and getting ready for the Layer 1 conference, which is coming up later in May. So if you're going to be in the Pasadena area, I'll also see you there. And as always, if you want to support the stream, you can go to varonis.com/Kody. That's Kody. And that lets everyone know that you enjoyed the stream, you wanted to keep going, and want us to keep streaming twice a week, every week. So you might have noticed I didn't go live on Wednesday, and that is because they let us record a stream at RSAC, but they didn't let us stream the stream. So, and also the internet there was terrible. And also I was afraid that it was actually just, I don't know, Russia. So because I didn't want to connect to the conference Wi-Fi and upload anything sensitive or log into really anything, yes, we have not posted that yet. However, it was recorded and you will see it soon. So expect to see a simu live where I will be hanging out in the chat and answering questions, but it'll be the video that we recorded at RSAC. We've got some great insights from the conference, as well as some cool other stories that we heard there. So, all right, you might have noticed Killian is gone today. He's off back to his home, but we got to hang out and do a lot of cool things. So you'll see him on our Simu Live, I really like that term. Yes, our Simu Live RSAC stream, which will be live, Simu Live, later next week. So have a good weekend, everyone. If anybody's in San Francisco, then like I said, would love to see you at either Noisebridge or at Querious Labs, and I will see everyone next week. Goodbye.